So what we want to open it up, and I'll moderate, but and whoever of us can answer a question, we will. But if anybody wants to have questions, yes, go ahead.
Sorry. Thank you for the presentation. It was wonderful. Thank you for the presentation. You guys did some incredible research. I do have one intellectual question, academically speaking. What did your research uncover? What black-owned banks were doing in Chicago at that time, and if so, what was the impact or the lack of impact?
I can answer if you guys can't. Just FYI, black-owned banks, they're total in the late 50s to the 60s. The total that they had in reserve was $15 million. You had a black population of 1 million people. They did not have the ability to participate in this that much. On the other hand, there were some black insurance companies that were involved in contract selling. I think the reason they weren't more involved was because of the limits on the amount of capital that they had. And there was, some debate. Is this the only way to buy homes? Should we help let people buy homes because it's the only way? But the truth of the matter is that the amount of capital that they controlled was just simply too small for them to have a major impact in this.
I don't really have anything to add to Merle's comments on the black banks. One of the things that should also be noted is that in Chicago, the speculators, the real estate speculators, were able to get mortgages from the banks. The same banks that had redlined the areas for black people not to be able to get mortgages, but the white sellers were able to get mortgages. And another thing that was also true in Chicago is that most of these properties, if not all, were, well, it's not all because Universal Builders didn't do it that way, but were sold under land trusts where the beneficiary of the land trust could not be named under law. Illinois is still the only state in the Union that has secret land trusts. And in the case of Chicago, many of the beneficiaries of the land trusts, we know from other sources, were members of the old Daily Machine. And as a matter of fact, somebody who had worked in the mayor's office, that I was at a dinner party in the suburbs 30 years later, 20 years later, whatever it was, late in the evening when he was pretty well oiled, said to me, "You had no business telling those people they got screwed when they bought their houses."
The quantification of the stolen value, did you guys, so there were 82% that were successful, but of those 80%, did you quantify the overpayment from market rates relative to what the African American home buyers had to pay, in addition to the 17% loss? That's the number one. And thing number two, I'm not a lawyer, but this smells a lot like a common practice of airing rents today, which is a profitable Fortune 1000 company that does business like this in white goods. Had you thought about the similarities between purchase of real estate relative to white goods at all, electronic sale, and how that...
Selling is back with full force right now since the 2008 crisis. It's worse than ever. It's in cities across the country. It's been documented heavily in Atlanta, Chicago, Detroit. I think it's prominent here as well. And now it's worse than ever because the property that is being purchased by hedge fund groups, the properties are often properties that were abandoned or foreclosed in the 2008 crisis and are in worse shape because they were empty. And they were purchased from Fannie Mae for often about $5,000, and they're being sold to buyers for about $60,000, $70,000. So the markup is absolutely obscene, and they are still under the same stipulations that you are responsible for maintenance, and if you miss a payment, you're out.
Like a personal touch to this. Clyde Ross, who was one of the main leaders of the Contract Fighters League, incredible man, one of the best men I've ever met. He constantly asked me about the house at the end of his block. It's a 3-story beautiful house. It's empty, it's been empty for a couple of years, and it's been over a year. He used to keep asking me who owns it, he wants to buy it. So I've been looking at the records, and Chicago Title and Trust owns it, who happens to be the same bank that ended up lending a lot of money to the sellers and screwing over a lot of the African American community. So even to this day, they have a grip on these communities. So they own a lot of properties. In terms of your question about, there was also a couple of details to our methodology. Because it was incomplete data and because we didn't know whether or not, in which individual household a contract was finished or not, in some respects. So we ended up assuming that there was only one contract per home, right? But we know that was not the case. We know that contract buyers were evicted, and then the seller ended up starting the whole contract again with another family, right? So this number could have been more staggering. But to the second part, more specific to your question, I'll let her answer it.
So it just relates to our data set. We weren't able to see as many turnovers as we knew existed, and to create that calculation, we wanted to be as accurate as possible. How long were, on average, were people in their homes before they were evicted, and what was the average turnover rate? And we didn't see it in our data set, but the figure of 17% came from Lynn Sadlin's dissertation. She's a business professor who did her dissertation at Jenner and Block, reviewing court documents from this case. So we're citing that figure. That didn't come from our actual data set. But if we had been able to see more properties turned over again, we do not have the entire universe of contract sales because they were not recorded. And it was only people who volunteered to be a part of this case, and a lot of people did not want to do that because they were somewhat embarrassed that they had been taken in that way. But if we had more data about the turnover rate, we would have included. We wanted to, but we weren't able to.
And then just on the piece with contemporary research, we do know that there are researchers that are currently sort of looking at the situation more contemporarily in places like Detroit and Atlanta. Examining some of these large companies that are sort of engaged in this practice currently.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Sadler, and your research team.